Hello, good morning and a warm welcome dear students to your geography class. Today we will continue our chapter number 5, Ocean Currents part 2. Today's lesson is going to be very exciting lesson, students. In the first part of the lesson you saw the stormy ocean. You did also an activity on surfing on the waves and learnt about the different ocean currents. Today you will learn about the movement of the water, how it happens from one location to the other. Also you will learn the types of ocean currents. I told you there are two types, warm ocean currents and cold, warm currents and cold currents. Alright, and you can see the movement also. This all you will see how these warm currents and cold currents are moving in different parts of the globe. Alright, so let's dive in. Then the explanation, this is part 2. You learn about horizontal surface ocean current, continental structure and effects of ocean surface currents on human life. Now watch the video very carefully, students. Lot of information in this.
Welcome back, my dear students, in new session of class 8 Geography, and today we are going to learn chapter 5th Ocean Currents part 2. Let's see some important points from this topic. Ocean currents, horizontal or surface ocean currents, effects of the ocean surface currents on human life, deep ocean currents, and importance of deep ocean currents. From these points, we have already learned the very first point, that is about ocean currents, how they form, what is meant by ocean currents. We have already learned in the last session. And today, in this session, we are going to discuss about the horizontal or surface ocean currents and the effects of the ocean surface currents on human life. Let's start with the horizontal or surface ocean currents. The flow on the surface of the ocean moves only 10% of oceanic water, means horizontal ocean currents contains only 10% of oceanic water. The surface flow is considered up to 500 meters of depth, and below that 500 meters that will be known as a deep ocean currents. The discharge of water in the oceans is measured in a Schwaderup unit, means discharge of the oceanic water is measured in a Schwaderup unit. It is a one kind of unit which is used for the measuring discharge of the water in the oceans, and it is equivalent to 1 million cubic meter per second. The horizontal flow of ocean water occurs as warm ocean currents and the cold ocean currents. These currents flow from the equator to the poles and from the poles to the equator. These currents are pushed to long distances by the planetary winds, means planetary winds give speed to the oceanic currents. As a result, the ocean water flow from the equator to both the poles and vice versa. Means equator to the poles and poles to the equator. Observe the map and answer the following questions. The very first question, what are the major types of ocean currents? Answer, there are two major types of ocean currents. First is warm ocean currents and second is a cold ocean currents. Question second, what do you call the currents flowing from the equator to the poles? Answer, the currents flowing from the equator towards the poles are cold ocean currents. Question third, what do you call the currents flowing from the poles to the equator? Answer, the currents flowing from the equator to the poles are called cold ocean currents. Question 4. When the currents are moving in a circular manner, what difference is visible in their direction in northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere respectively? Answer, in the northern hemisphere, ocean currents are moved in a clockwise direction and in anti-clockwise direction in the southern hemisphere. Question 5. What might happen at the places where these currents meet? Answer. At the places where the cold and the warm currents meet, thick fog formed. Question 6. When two different types of currents meet along the coast, then what type of human settlements and occupations are seen? Answer. In the region where cold and warm currents meet, plankton, vegetation, algae, etc. grow there. This is the food for the fish. Therefore, fish come here in large numbers and breed. This led to the formation of large fishing grounds. For example, Grand Bank near the Northern American coast. If the transportation is done according to the flow of ocean currents, the speed of the ships increase and the fuel is also saved. Geographical explanation. We have studied that the ocean currents are formed due to the differences in temperature, density, and planetary winds. In addition, the following reasons are also responsible for the ocean currents, that is, salinity, direction of a flow of ocean currents, and the velocity. Some other reasons behind the ocean currents are the very first point, the rotation of the earth. Because of the rotation of the earth in the northern hemisphere, the ocean currents moves in a clockwise manner, and in the southern hemisphere, ocean currents moves in a anti-clockwise manner. Means in the northern hemisphere, it moves in a clockwise manner, and in the southern hemisphere, it moves opposite of the clockwise. It is an anti-clockwise manner. The second point is a continental structure. Continental structure also affects on the movement of ocean currents. According to the alignment of the coastline, the direction of the ocean current changes. The velocity of the ocean currents is around 2 to 10 km per hour. The ocean currents are divided into two types, that is, cold ocean currents and the warm ocean currents. Effects of ocean surface currents on human life. Ocean currents especially affect the climate of the regions having proximity to the sea. In the cold regions where warm ocean currents flow, climate becomes warmer. In some regions, the amount of precipitation increases. For example, the warm ocean currents flowing near the Western Europe, Southern Alaska, and Japanese coast reduce the intensity of winters and make them warmer. Though these regions are very cold, their ports do not freeze in winters. What would happen if the ocean currents will be absent? Had ocean currents been absent, the ocean water would have remained still. In such waters, the biotic components would have been devoid of foods. Consequently, marine life and its ecosystem would have been limited in its extent. Means it will be dangerous for the ecosystem of marine life. In the region where cold and warm currents meet, plankton, vegetation, and algae, etc. grow here. This is the food for the fish, and therefore fish come here in large numbers and breed. This has in turn led to the formation of large fishing grounds. Grand Bank near the North American coast in Atlantic Ocean and Dogger Bank near the European coast are some examples. With respect to the water transport too, the ocean currents are very important. If the transportation is done according to the flow of the ocean currents, the speed of the ship increases and the fuel is saved. Near the coast, where cold currents flow, the amount of precipitation is very low. For example, in Peru, Chile, and the arid desert of southwestern Africa. At places where the cold and the warm currents meet, thick fog is formed. Such fog creates problems for the transportation of ships. The warm Gulf Stream and the cold Labrador Current meet near the Newfoundland island. This leads to dense fog. Because of the cold currents, icebergs are carried away from the polar areas. In such icebergs come along the marine routes. They are hazardous to the ships. Icebergs are a huge piece of ice or a huge block of ice which is floating on water. For example, Titanic, a world-famous ship drowned in the water because of iceberg.
So students, you have learned very nice information in this part 2 about how the waters are moving and in which direction it moves, how it moves according to the rotation of the earth, according to the continental structure, coastline, and what is the effect of ocean surface currents on human life and on the fish of the sea, how it gets affected, and how it can help the ships also, and also it can cause destruction also if there are icebergs are forming, because the icebergs, you see the icebergs are formed like this. Why did the Titanic sink? Do you know that, children? Because they saw only the top of the iceberg. Top of the iceberg only you can see the triangle shape, but below the surface of the water there's a big chunk of iceberg below it, which cannot be seen, which spreads over large distances. So when we see it from on top, we see only a small piece, means one part. So that's why the ship could not see that part, because it was right below, and that's why it hit the down base of the ship, hit the iceberg, and it sank. So that was the reason of why the Titanic, the largest ship during that time, sank. I hope you like this part. We will continue this in the next part. Thank you.